History 2323 lecture overview, World War II Allied victory. Okay, the American part in World War II in Europe will actually begin in North Africa, fighting under a British general named Montgomery, who was fighting against a German general named Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. Rommel is often considered Hitler's best general, and his nickname was Desert Fox in part because he was so hard to catch corner in the desert of North Africa. Eventually, though, there will be a major battle at El Alamein in Egypt, and that's going to be a turning point because this will, even though Rommel will not be defeated, quote unquote, he is pushed back into Europe after this event, and then the Allies will begin working to fight up the Italian boot towards the north. Mussolini is actually the first fascist leader to be ousted by his own people. He's executed, but the Germans will hold, and there will be fierce battles in Italy until near the end of the war. In the Pacific, you will have the Japanese will take a couple of those islands off that Aleutian island chain off of Alaska. There'll be a little bit of fighting there. But the first, I'm going to jump down to the south. The first, after Pearl Harbor, the Japanese thought they'd have 1 year before the U.S. would be able to fight them at sea. And in May, just off the coast of Australia, if you look at a map, you'll see it. It's called the Battle of Coral Sea. Neither navy saw each other, so it's going to be a unique battle in that way. But this will, it's more or less a draw. Both inflict damage on the other. But this initiates what is called the island hopping campaign, as you work up the Solomon Islands towards into Southeast Asia and then towards Japan itself. So Guadalcanal will be the first island that they attack, and these are going to be really bloody, brutal battles. The Philippines falls to the Japanese, and so that's going to lead to an evacuation. A lot of American soldiers are captured, and they are forced to march this 60-mile death march, where I think of the 60 or 70,000, I think it's 10,000 die en route. Then you'll have fierce battles. Leyte Gulf will be the largest naval battle, I believe, in world history. Iwo Jima is famous for its American flag being raised on Mount Suribachi. But this island was important because it will lead to direct bombing of Japan. Tokyo is firebombed in March, and these are incendiary devices intended to start fires, and Japanese homes tend to be made of a lot of flammable materials, and so this causes devastation in Tokyo. The first island that Japan owned before the war began, so it's not one of the 4 big islands of Japan, but it's just off of the southern one, off the southernmost island, called Okinawa. It's a bloody battle where you have, I want to say it's close to 200,000 civilians and Japanese soldiers killed in this. And you have 9,000, I think, kamikaze pilots giving their lives, crashing into American ships and so forth. Then the 2 atomic bombs are there, the 6th and the 9th, and then Japan will surrender officially on September 2nd. That's called VJ Day, Victory in Japan Day. In the Atlantic Theater, the U.S. will be very active following, or in preparation for, and then following DDay, Operation Overlord. General Eisenhower will be the top Allied commander. This is in June of '44, and opening up that second front is going to, because the Russians had already been pushing from the east to the west since they held out at Stalingrad. Now it will be the U.S. and other Allied forces moving from the west to the east, and they will eventually meet in Germany. The Russians will take Berlin, but Hitler will commit suicide just for the end. Victory in Europe is going to be May 8th of '45 when they surrendered officially. The legacy of World War II is still with us. You can read through those. It's not going to be any different. I think it's in your notes already as well. I told you already about the great aberration. There's no opposition's war. And then something we experience twice a year, the daylight savings time change. That's also going to be based on saving electricity during World War II. So we're still doing that way after the fact. Okay, I'm going to talk about signal intelligence, which is going to be a little bit unusual. This is, it's basically trying to break each other's secret messages, secret codes. So this is part of cryptology, and you can see these are terminologies you can just go through. A crib is a known phrase. Like if you know that every German telegram is going to end with the word Hail Hitler, that gives you a little peek into what the code is for that day, because these codes change constantly. Okay, the 3 American codes, and I'll let you read the magic and the Ultra J on your own, but this is what I'm going to focus on, and that's going to be the one that was to break Hitler's code. And the British had set up a secret location at Bletchley Park, Station X, in which the top code breakers, these are going to be brilliant mathematicians and so on, will try to break Hitler's Enigma machine. That's his code-making machine. The Poles had helped out. Remember, Poland fell immediately at once Hitler attacked Poland. Excuse me there for one sec. And he will, the Poles had already broken the 3-wheel Enigma. I'll explain this in a second. And had gotten their device called the Bomba to Bletchley Park. So Poland is cut in half, Russia got half, the Germans got half, but the Poles, at least their resistance, these guys get out. There's 3 of them. Rajewski is just one of them that will help break the codes at Bletchley Park with the others. Eventually, Hitler will add more wheels. Another top scientist is Alan Turing, and then he creates what's called the bomb, which is it's a way to break the code by testing. These are mathematical equations that are way beyond my ability to explain. And then Tommy Flowers will create what is called Colossus 2, the world's first programmable computer. Okay, and that's also used to try to break the codes. Now, these are really important because the faster you can break a code, the more lives you can save. Now, the messages were given priorities by Z's, 1 Z low, 5 Z's very high. Like weather reports were very high because you had these bombers going long distances, and if the weather was bad, you couldn't drop your bombs because you couldn't see your targets. So these are high-risk missions. It's not. There's always precautions. You got to have a cover story. You can't just go and attack something because the Germans are tipped off that you know their code. It's not omniscient. It's not omnipotent. So not all-knowing, not all-powerful. It has to be integrated with other military intelligence. Some successes, and you can see some here. The one that El Alamein, Montgomery actually had Rommel's entire war plan and still couldn't defeat him. So it makes Monty actually look worse once we know that the decoders had broken the whole German code for that day and for that event. We used, I don't know if you can see the bottom here very well, we used Navajo in the Pacific. The Japanese never figured it out. They used their language because this is all an open radio contact. And so this will, you can read through these, but we have these Navajo code talkers saved thousands and thousands of American lives because they were able to keep this secret and use their language in a manner that the Japanese had no clue what was going on. Then the final example will be the D-Day, and Hitler thought that there would be an attack at either Italy, Norway, or Calais, which is right across the English Channel. And so he's got his divisions. He's got 60 divisions in Western Europe. They're all trying to anticipate where the Allies are going to land. So we're trying to keep the secret by telling a lot of lies. And so we have to use double agents. And this guy here, Juan Pujol, whose nickname or spy name is Garbo, is going to be one of Hitler's favorite spies. And what happens is there's some fake armies set up that are there to make the Germans think that the attack is going to come either at Norway, this is going to be the Britain's fourth up in Scotland, or right across the channel at Calais, which is the first U.S. Army group was there at the English Channel. So the real army, though, was right across from Normandy getting ready to attack, and the German 7th Army was at Normandy, and their 15th, which is a mechanized, it means it had bigger guns, and I think it had Panzer tanks as well, was at Calais waiting for this one coming across the English Channel. When the attack occurred on June 6th, by the 8th, Hitler knew that there was something going on in Normandy, and so he begins to send the 15th, which is the heavy one, down to take out the group that was landing at Normandy, which is going to be the main force. And Garbo had to get on the contact, had to contact Hitler directly, quickly, and told him to turn, that the real event of the invasion was going to come at Calais. And so Hitler ordered his 15th to turn around, and that was we never knew any about this until the 1980s, because this event was so top secret that it wasn't even known to the public until the 1980s, when some of the secrets started trickling out. So the point of all this is that there was a huge amount of behind-the-scenes work done by people who could never become heroes because they had to be never identified, and what they did never known. And so this is again part of warfare and a part of World War II, that when you read books prior to 1980, they're not going to include anything about this. And so it's important to remember that there's all these behind-the-scenes stuff going on, and the people who do this don't get recognition. So this concludes the Allied victory in World War II.